A simple online search of Sutter's Fort would tell you that the fort was an 1840s agricultural and trade colony in the Central Valley of California. It's a lot more complicated than that. This was not a military fort. After John Sutter obtained an almost 50,000 acre land grant from the Mexican government, the fort was built as the manufacturing hub. This was a place where people came to work, to make materials for sale, or to assist with the work of other craftsmen at the fort. Such manufactories include a blanket factory, a cooper shop for making barrels, a blacksmith shop for making iron tools for all the other workers, a gunsmith shop for making and repairing firearms, a grist mill for grinding wheat into flour, a carpenter shop, a kitchen to cook meals for all the workers here at the fort, a bakery to bake bread not only for the workers but also hardtack for sale. While 30 to 50 workers worked inside the fort on a daily basis, at least 100 to 200 workers were outside the fort, and during harvest time, about 600 to 800 workers were needed, especially around the wheat harvest. Already hinted at, the work outside the fort involved raising livestock and tending to the agricultural fields. But just how large were those agricultural endeavors? By the mid-1840s, John Sutter wrote that he had roughly 10,000 head of cattle. And Heinrich Lienhard, one of the clerks here at the fort, wrote in his memoirs later that they were slaughtering 5 to 6 cows a day to feed the workers. But the meat wasn't the main purpose of raising cattle. It was the hides and the tallow. In looking at the daily logbook that was kept here at the fort in the 1840s, and looking at April 1848, we could see just the scale of what they were working with here. It is noted on April 10th, 1848, that one of the launches, being likely the Sacramento, a schooner that was transporting goods from New Helvetia to Monterey, the capital, notes that on the cargo was 100 cowhides and also 125 fanegas of wheat. That is the equivalent of about 20,000 pounds of wheat being brought out of here in just that shipment alone. And later, a few days later, on April 13th, John Sutter mentioned that they had finished shearing about 1,025 sheep. And there was still 1,000 sheep remaining. And that's not counting the 400 to 500 lambs that had been recently born. It's hard to imagine what the outside of Sutter's Fort looked like in the 1840s when Sutter's Fort State Historic Park today is surrounded by an urban park here in Midtown Sacramento, with even buildings outside the fort tower over its walls today. This area was vastly different before the fort was here as well. The fort and the city of Sacramento sits on the unceded ancestral lands of the Nisenan, Miwok, and Maidu Native people. This land that was once full of valley oak was changed by all the agricultural endeavors that I mentioned. It is important to note that even as the environmental landscape changed in the 1840s and as American immigration continued to grow over that decade, roughly 80% of the labor inside and outside the fort was done by native people from local villages. And much of that work was done through fear, coercion, and for their own survival as their traditional livelihood changed. Sacramento, as the farm to fort capital that we know of today, had its start right here at Sutter's Fort in the 1840s. But it is important to also remember that this place was a catalyst of change for the environment here and also for the lives of Native people.